Mark Schlereth,
Stink.
former NFL defensive lineman, as we know, works with the NFL on Fox, also works out in Denver, 104.3 The Fan, out there with our friends. Mark, thank you as always for joining us. We appreciate your time. I know you watched the game on Sunday night, not only because you work in Denver, but because you're a football freak like us. Your thoughts on Jimmy G's performance and what you saw?
I thought it was inconsistent. I thought there were a lot of throws and a lot of things that just didn't look in sync, basically. The offense didn't look in sync. And, when you step out of the back of the end zone and pull an Orlovsky, certainly there is there's a lack of preparation from the standpoint of working all off season. He had the shoulder surgery, and you think about it, during training camp, what was he throwing to trainers and other people off hours? He wasn't even part of training camp. So I just thought it looked like an offense that needed work, that hadn't been together very often and hadn't been together, hadn't worked together very much. So that was really kind of my major takeaway. Now, that said, I think Denver's a pretty stout defense, and they did a great job of defending the run. I thought Mike Purcell played really well, and DJ Jones played really well, kind of put him behind the eight ball there. So I think it really, more than anything else, it just showed like an offense that hadn't spent a lot of time together. And it goes to just the conversation that we've had here in Denver a bunch, and I'm sure you guys have had it too, a time or two, is just the way they operate in the preseason in today's game, how it's all about keeping your players safe. And I understand that you have to keep your players safe and healthy and all that stuff. But at the same time, guys got to work. You can't get good at playing football by doing anything other than playing football. So it's a strange kind of quote unquote juxtaposition, if you will, of how much do you work and how much, rest do you give your guys.
And Jimmy brought that up after the game of essentially saying, hey, man, there's some rust to shake off here. I had off-season shoulder surgery, didn't have OTAs, didn't have a regular training camp. And a lot of 49ers fans and people in the media, including my partner here, Nick Cattles, rolled their eyes at that and said, excuses. Enough with the excuses, Jimmy G. But, sometimes, Mark, excuses are real and legit. And I'm in the camp of, in this case, saying, yeah, there's something to that.
There timing and and being in sync and being on the same page and all that stuff. It's all true, and it's, I get it that you don't want to hear it and that it's not, what you, but I talked to Jimmy before the first game of the season, and, I saw him on the field. So I was chatting with him, and I was like, hey man, how you doing? He said, it's just weird. I really haven't done anything, and, and hadn't worked at all. And so then all of a sudden he gets thrust in that situation in the first quarter when Trey Lance goes down. I thought he did a phenomenal job, but again, it's going to take a little time for that offense to get in sync. I think the other thing that happened is it's not just Jimmy G, it's the whole offense in general. So there are all these quarterback designed runs and things that you were doing off of, pistol and zone read stuff and, things that you've been working on as an offense, the entirety of OTAs and trying to the juxtaposition of developing a quarterback and winning at the same time. And that's really hard to do. And that's what they were tasked with in the off season and during preseason and training camp. So that's the operation, that's what they were doing and that's what they were running. And all of a sudden, Jimmy Garoppolo can't run that stuff. He's not running quarterback powers. He's not running a lot of the zone read stuff, either shotgun side saddle, or in pistol. He's not a threat to run it. So now in 1 week, all of a sudden you got to change kind of what you do, what your offensive philosophy's been all through OTAs and all through training camp. So it's not just Jimmy, it's the rest of the offense that also is a bit out of sync. So that stuff is going to take time. And that's just the reality of football, especially in today's football, where it has become so player specific because so many guys have different skill sets.
Mark Schlereth is with us. I already shared my opinion about Jimmy G. This isn't about me. It's about Mark being with us right now. So I'm not going to have a talk show with Mark here. I want to ask him some questions and get more into the game and other stuff. Shanahan, Mark, watching Kyle Shanahan on Sunday night, some interesting decisions. He doesn't take the penalty. He gives up the 55-yard field goal. Some other decisions he made, a 4th and 4 later on in the night. Did you think Shanahan was a little too conservative on Sunday?
Listen, I think that you have to look at it like what gives us in a game in which we know it's going to be low scoring and we know how good our defense is. What gives us the best opportunity to win this game based upon the situation? And to be honest, being conservative gives you the best opportunity. You know, it's the old Bill Belichick saying, more games are lost than won in this league. And I, for one, am just one of those people that will look at those situations, the conservative nature of making sure you don't put your players in harm's way, mitigate potential disaster, and hopefully find a way to get in sync, find a way to win a game. Let's face it, the Broncos' offense was awful.
Yeah.
Like, it was just awful. So, why would you put yourself in harm's way when, their offense hasn't been worth a squirt of piss all night long? So, I look at that. Every game takes on a meaning of its own. It's like calling a game. I often go into a game on Sunday and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a great one. This is going to be awesome. And then it becomes a dud. Or you go, oh, this one's going to be low scoring affair. And next thing you know, it's an offensive, output, performance. And so you just never know how they're going to play out. And so every game takes on its own life. Every game is different. And you've got to play a style with which to say, I've got to play this style that gives my team the best opportunity to win a game. And so I don't look at that. Well, he's not aggressive enough, man. You lost a game 10-11. That score's only happened one other time in NFL history. So it is one of those things where it's disappointing, to be sure. There's no question if you're a Niners fan. But at the same time, you take away, man, our defense is really good. And, other than Russell Wilson making some off-schedule plays late in the last drive of the game, that's a game we should win.
This particular question isn't about any particular team, Mark. This is more just big picture, and this could apply to the 49ers and people making proclamations about Trey Lance after one or two games, or making proclamations about Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan. In Oakland, you have Josh McDaniels starting 0-3 and things rough there. The problems in Denver, and it's not unique to this NFL season. Every NFL season, you have people saying, this guy's in over his head. That guy isn't what people thought he was. How early, from a guy who's been in NFL locker rooms and has been around this league for decades, Mark, how early is too early to know whether something is off the rails and not getting back? Have you ever been in a locker room and after 3 weeks you were like, this coach is just not the guy? Or anything that you're ready to proclaim after 3 weeks?
It's interesting. Every situation is different. And let's face it, in Buffalo, Josh Allen is a Pro Bowl, All-Pro, MVP candidate, right? Mm-hmm. Right now. Going into year 3, there are huge question marks about his accuracy and whether it was ever going to develop.
Yep.
Very much like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, will he ever get – the Philadelphia Eagles are so freaking talented, but will Jalen Hurts develop to the point, or will he hold them back? Well, year 3, all of a sudden, the kid is great. Now, I'll tell you this about those guys. Conscientious, intelligent, hardworking guys that are coachable. They want to be coached, right? Those guys, you always hold out hope, even if the guy struggles early, because it matters to him, right? He's got great, what we like to call football character. He loves the game. He prepares. He wants to be great. He wants to work at it, right? And then there are guys that just don't seem to care. And I've seen those guys where you look at a dude and go, that dude will never get it. That dude will never play. And I've done it in one practice. And most of the time you're right. And so it just depends on the guy. It just depends on the situation. You can always get better, but if the work ethic and the love of the game is not there, there's a lot of guys, and I'm sure you've heard this said before, but there are guys that are have an intrinsic love for the game, and then there are the guys that are extrinsically motivated. They like the lifestyle, the money, the cars, the celebrity, and then there's guys that just love playing. And if the guy just loves playing, he may have growing pains early, but the odds are it's so important to him that he's going to figure it out. And it's the guys who just love all the ancillary things, all the things that come with it. Those guys never survive.
Fantastic stuff, Mark, this week. Thanks. Appreciate it as always. We'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you. There goes Mark Schlereth, NFL on Fox, 104.3 The Fan, out there in Denver. Lots of stuff I wanted to get to with him. Just don't have another guy. It's Trent Williams and the Raiders stuff, and I wanted his thoughts on Russell Wilson. And
Not enough time with Stink.
not enough time. It's not enough time with one Mark Schlereth.
We need more Stink time.